In this video, we're going to talk about why it is that some therapy or transformative coaching modalities work and why some don't. And the reason doesn't really have to do with the techniques per se. A lot of the time, it has to do with what level of awareness is available to those techniques when they're applied. Okay. So here's an example from one of my clients who I'm going to call Michelle. And Michelle's situation when she came to work with me was that she uh, she had this abandonment trauma and other things going on too. But one real item of suffering was mom sending her away when she was 2 years old, and this was you know a huge disruption in her sense of connection with mom, in her sense of um, being attuned to by mom. Um, it was a defining event in her life, and she had conscious knowledge from going to prior therapy about what that meant to her, which was mom rejected me. I didn't really matter to her. Maybe I, you know, maybe I don't really matter as a, there's, there were some vague meanings around that, like not mattering, um, and feeling like a throwaway person, that sort of thing. And which went quite deep. There were really significant pain points. And there was this ongoing experience of like this inner terrorizer that it felt like there was something would just come over my client when she felt like she was pursuing things that she wanted in life. And her conscious mind couldn't really make sense of why that was happening. Why is there this inner sense of something that's terrorizing me whenever I want to, pursue things that I really like, or pursue my life's purpose, or feel powerful in a good way. um why is that, right? And unknown, not sure as to why that is. And so whenever there's something like that, my assumption, this is something that is straight out of coherence therapy and many other transformative schools of thought, but basically that there is something going on. There is something going on in the mind body system that for which that response is either doing something, it's doing something out of a desire to protect or to get love or attunement, or it's derivative of some desire that is like that. Okay. So there's this experience of an inner terrorizer that's sabotaging good things in my life. This doesn't make any sense to me, right? Um, Now, this means that mom sending me away at 2 years old still has a meaning that's in the unconscious mind and that's not integrated with conscious awareness. Meanings that are in the unconscious mind are just as specific as meanings that are in the conscious mind. They are just not integrated. What this means is that, let's say you're walking in front of traffic and there's, a car coming towards you. You will jump back because your body has a knowing of what the car is, of how you relate to the car, what the car can do to you, why that's dangerous. All of that is going on, and there is specificity to it, right? It's like that. That's why, let's say you see a picture of the type of person that you're attracted to. You feel a different set of responses towards that picture versus towards the car that's coming towards you, because your body already has an implicit knowing of what that is and what it means, right? Okay. So these deeper meanings have both specificity and a clear relationship to my client's suffering, but they're not in conscious awareness just yet. And that's really the setup for any therapy client or any client that enters a transformative, enters into this kind of transformative work. They come in with a divided mind, basically, where there are knowings in unconscious awareness that are being acted out, and they seem confusing. It's almost as if they're happening from some external place, but they're not. Okay, so through just gentle Socratic questions that were experiential in nature, what Michelle got to was this: the event, mom sends me away when I'm 2 years old. Another significant thing that happened around that time was dad passing away suddenly, from cancer that grew very quickly. And there was this sense of, oh my God, my very being hurts mom and others. This is my fault that this happened. I must be like this destroyer of lives. And so having power, I want to have power in my life, but if I do, that means that I'll just have the power to destroy more lives. Right. And so that makes sense. That, that integration experience allowed my client to make sense of why that was happening. This experience of this inner terrorizer then made sense because it was protecting her from this ability that she believed she had in her, in this childlike way of knowing, that had been unconscious for, her adult life. Uh, she, she gained vivid awareness of this. And sometimes when these unconscious constructs or, feeling knowings that live deep in the body or deep in the unconscious mind, when they integrate into conscious awareness, sometimes that's all that's needed. Sometimes they need finessing. In this case, my client had already, done a lot of realization process and other kinds of meditation and had done a lot of other work that had laid this foundation for her to know that, of course, her inner being is not dangerous. In several of our sessions, she had experienced her inner being as medicinal and had a direct knowing of that. And so when this early childhood knowing of my very being hurts mom and others, I am like this destroyer of lives, when that came into contact with this knowing that actually, no, my very being is just fine, if I really feel into my inner being, it's medicinal. My inner nature is actually, unconditional love and power and oneness and all of that. So this need to terrorize myself, right? That in the past was a solution to be having this ability to destroy lives. It's as if the way that my client described it was as if she had poison breath. And it's like, on the one hand, she can't go around breathing on people, but she still has to breathe, right? So there's this constant internal struggle about not breathing too much, not having too much power, not having too much vitality, not having too much competency, right? And so the need to terrorize was a child's way, unconscious, but intelligent. It is an intelligent or well-formed response to this construal of being that, oh my God, I have the power to ruin lives, and my very being does this. Just by existing, I end up ruining lives. And of course, in that integration experience, she knew that that wasn't her fault either. But in that kind of integration, there was this spontaneous recognition that, oh my God, I don't need to terrorize myself. Like, terrorizing myself actually isn't a solution to not hurting people, because my very being doesn't hurt people to begin with, And this sounds like something that it's like, well, of course, at our adult level, we know a lot of these things already, but there really is a phenomenon of compartmentalization or, siloing of early painful experiences and the knowings about ourselves that those contain. It's almost as if we have, another unknown self that's with us 24/7 that is acting out some of these themes. So anyway, the essence here was that my client started with this view of the symptom or of her suffering that I don't, it's like, I don't understand why this inner terrorizer is sabotaging the good things in my life. Oh, wait a minute. The terrorizer had the function of keeping me from destroying more lives. Does that make sense to everybody? I hope it does. So this is just one case study that demonstrates why it is that some therapeutic modalities will work and will be effective down to an ontological or an essential level of being. When they are effective in that way, what that will do is create a cascading effect where downstream from that, that core level of being, that core view of self or view of reality, the sense of triggering is also transformed, because there's no more purpose for that inner terrorizer to arise. There's no more purpose for it, right? Unconsciously, that is no longer a response that helps with survival, or helps with getting love, or helps protect others, or helps to, preserve, a habitual way of being that we're just comfortable with and that we feel is our foundation. Doesn't do any of that anymore. Okay. Um, and each of these kind of construals of meaning, for example, I need to terrorize myself and not have power so that I don't recreate the same ordeal of destroying lives. So these underlying construals of meaning, they have different functions. Not all of them are necessarily about destroying lives or protecting ourselves from doing that. But the point is that there is this core level that is palpable. We know it when we get to it. And so when we get to that core level and it's integrated into conscious awareness, then there is the potential for real transformational change, permanent change, right? Because for my client, there were still things that we needed to work on after this, but this particular schema, or this particular thread of suffering that created this particular response, was resolved, right? There were similar responses that she had that were related to other construals of meaning, but this particular thread resolved a huge chunk of suffering for my client. So I hope this has been helpful, and I hope you enjoyed. Okay, thanks.